There's a moment in life where nothing is visibly broken, yet something inside you refuses to stay the same. You wake up, follow your routine, speak to the same people, but a quiet discomfort begins to follow you. It's not loud enough to alarm you, but not soft enough to ignore. And that's the paradox of self-transformation. It doesn't begin when your life falls apart. It begins when your inner world outgrows the life that once made sense. You don't feel like a new person yet, but you can no longer fully be who you were. And that space in between doesn't feel exciting. It feels uncertain, unfamiliar, and strangely isolating. At first, it feels like nothing, just small moments of disconnection. You're sitting in a conversation, but your mind drifts elsewhere. You're following your routine, but it feels mechanical, like you're repeating something instead of living it. Even your own reactions start to feel unfamiliar. And you can't quite explain why. Because from the outside, everything still looks fine. But internally, something has shifted. Psychologically, this is the beginning of transformation, a change in perception. You begin to see your life differently. And once that shift happens, the same life no longer feels the same. There's a quiet tension that comes with this stage. Not panic, not crisis, just a low, constant friction beneath your thoughts. You start questioning things you never questioned before. Why am I doing this? Why does this feel empty? Why doesn't this feel like me anymore? This happens because your mind is expanding beyond your current identity. Your habits, your routines, your roles, they were built for a version of you that is slowly changing. And now, they don't fit as naturally as they once did. But here's where most people misunderstand this experience. They think something is wrong, that they've lost motivation, that they're becoming ungrateful. So they try to fix it. They push themselves harder. They return to familiar habits. They try to force themselves back into alignment with a life that no longer matches them, because the unknown feels more uncomfortable than staying the same. But the discomfort doesn't disappear, because awareness, once it begins, doesn't reverse. And slowly, you begin to notice something deeper. You don't fully recognize yourself anymore, but you also don't know who you're becoming. You're in between identities, between patterns, between certainty and change. And this space is where transformation truly begins. Not with clarity, but with the quiet realization that the old version of you can no longer carry you forward. And somewhere inside that uncertainty, a question begins to take shape. If I can't go back to who I was, then what is trying to emerge instead? At some point, you start to notice something frustrating. Even after all this awareness, you still fall back into the same patterns. You react the same way. You think the same thoughts. You return to habits you already know no longer serve you. And it leaves you wondering, if I see it now, why can't I change it? The answer is uncomfortable, because transformation is not blocked by ignorance. It's blocked by familiarity. Your brain is not designed to choose what's better. It's designed to choose what's known, even if what's known is limiting, even if what's known is painful, because familiar patterns feel safe. And unfamiliar change feels like risk. Your identity is not just who you think you are. It's a collection of repeated experiences. Every reaction, every belief, every emotional pattern you've practiced becomes part of that identity. And once something becomes familiar, your mind tries to preserve it, even when you consciously want to change. This is why transformation doesn't feel like progress at first. It feels like resistance, like something inside you is pulling you back. Not because you lack discipline, but because your nervous system is still attached to the version of you it understands. This creates a quiet conflict within you. Part of you wants to grow. Another part of you wants to stay the same. You feel motivated one moment and completely stuck the next. Clear one day and confused the next. And it can feel like you're moving in circles. But you're not. You're experiencing what psychology describes as internal restructuring. Two versions of you are trying to exist at the same time: the familiar self and the emerging self. And they don't align yet. So your mind moves back and forth between them. One of the hardest parts of transformation isn't changing. It's letting go. Letting go of the habits that once comforted you. Letting go of beliefs that once made life predictable. Letting go of parts of yourself that once helped you survive. And that's why it feels like loss. Because those patterns were not random. They had a purpose. They protected you. They helped you cope. They gave you structure when you needed it most. So when you begin to outgrow them, your mind doesn't see it as growth. It sees it as something being taken away. But slowly, something begins to shift. You start noticing your patterns without immediately acting on them. You see your thoughts, but you don't fully believe them. You feel your emotions, but you don't let them control you in the same way. There's a small space that begins to form between what you experience and how you respond. And that space is subtle, but it's powerful. Because for the first time, you're not fully inside the pattern. You're observing it. And in that quiet space, a different kind of understanding begins to emerge. Not about how to force change, but about how to stop fighting yourself long enough to see what's actually changing. At some point, something softens. Not everything around you changes. Your life may still look the same from the outside, the same environment, the same responsibilities, the same daily structure. But internally, there's a shift. The pressure begins to fade. That constant urge to fix yourself, to force progress, to become something different, slowly loses its intensity. And in its place, something quieter appears. Awareness without urgency. You're no longer chasing transformation. You're allowing it. And strangely, that's when it begins to feel more real. Because real change doesn't come from pressure. It comes from alignment. For a long time, transformation feels like a battle. You against your habits. You against your thoughts. You against your past. But eventually, you begin to see something clearly. The parts of you you've been trying to change were never your enemy. They were learned responses, adaptations, ways of navigating moments you didn't fully understand at the time. And when you see that, the conflict begins to dissolve. You stop asking, "How do I get rid of this?" and start asking, "Why did this form in me?" That shift changes everything. Because now you're not trying to erase yourself. You're trying to understand yourself. Transformation doesn't arrive as a single moment. It shows up quietly. In the way you pause before reacting. In the way certain thoughts no longer feel as convincing. In the way you don't return to patterns as quickly as you once did. These changes feel small, almost unnoticeable. But psychologically, they are significant. Because identity doesn't change through one decision. It changes through repeated moments of responding differently. And over time, those moments begin to reshape how you see yourself. People often imagine healing as a final state, a point where everything feels resolved, where your thoughts are quiet, where your emotions are stable, where nothing unsettles you anymore. But real healing doesn't remove complexity. It changes your relationship with it. You still feel, you still think, you still have moments of doubt, but they no longer define you in the same way. They move through you, instead of controlling you. And one of the strangest parts of transformation is this. From the outside, your life may not look very different, but internally, everything has shifted. The way you interpret things, the way you respond, the way you experience yourself. And because of that, the same life begins to feel like a different one. Not because your circumstances changed, but because you did. And maybe this is what transformation really leads to. Not perfection, not certainty, but freedom. The freedom to not react the same way, to not believe every thought, to not carry every emotion as truth. The freedom to exist without constantly trying to become something else. And that kind of freedom is quiet. It doesn't announce itself, but you feel it. And in the end, self-transformation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to a version of yourself that existed before the patterns, before the expectations, before the roles you learned to play. Not a perfect version, but a real one. Because the truth is, you were never completely lost. You were just layered. And one day, without even realizing it, you stop asking who you should become and start recognizing who you've been all along.